Haven's Final Stand. Chapter 1. The Sanctuary. In a world overrun by the undead, a group of survivors had found solace within the walls of an old fortified church, their sanctuary in the midst of chaos. The church, St. Michael ES, had stood for over a century, and it seemed fitting that it now offered shelter in a world where hope had dwindled. Inside, a diverse group of survivors had come together. Jacob, a former military medic, took charge of the group's medical needs. Emily, a schoolteacher, offered comfort and a sense of normalcy through her lessons with the children. And Mark, a construction worker, led the efforts to reinforce the church's defenses. They had made the old church their home, and the survivors shared meals, stories, and their hopes for a better future. For a time, they believed they were safe behind the thick stone walls and sturdy wooden doors. But the world outside was relentless. The undead, drawn by the scent of life within the sanctuary, pressed against the barricades and pounded on the doors, a constant reminder that their safety was fragile. Jacob knew they couldn't stay hidden forever. "Our supplies won't last forever," he said. "We need to find a more secure place with more resources." With a heavy heart, the group began discussing their options. The church's supplies were dwindling, and the relentless onslaught of the undead grew more harrowing with each passing day. Chapter 2. The Exodus. The decision to leave St. Michael's was met with mixed emotions. Some were hopeful about the possibility of finding a safer haven, while others clung to the familiarity of the church's walls. Led by Mark's construction skills, the group set out to fortify a convoy of vehicles they had gathered over the weeks. They stocked up on supplies, weapons, and medical equipment, preparing for the perilous journey ahead. As they ventured out into the desolate world, they encountered numerous obstacles. The roads were treacherous, often blocked by abandoned cars and debris. Infected stragglers roamed the landscape, their wails echoing through the deserted streets. They reached a small town, hoping to find much-needed supplies. The survivors fanned out to scavenge, with Mark leading a group to a supermarket. As they rummaged through the store's shelves, they were suddenly surrounded by a horde of infected. In a desperate struggle, the group fought their way out of the supermarket, but not without casualties. They had lost Sarah, a nurse who had been a beacon of hope in their group. Her death weighed heavily on their hearts, a stark reminder of the dangers they faced. They continued their journey, the losses and hardships strengthening their resolve. As they traveled, they encountered other survivors, some willing to join their group, while others chose to go their own way. The road ahead was long and perilous, but they were determined to find a new sanctuary, a place where they could rebuild and find safety once more. Chapter 3. The Last Stand. After weeks of searching, the survivors discovered a remote fortress nestled in the mountains. It was a sprawling old military compound, surrounded by high walls and armed guards. The promise of safety and supplies lured them in, but they soon realized that the fortress had its own set of challenges. The compound was ruled by a group known as the Guardians. They were heavily armed, well-organized, and had a strict set of rules. The survivors had to negotiate their way into the compound, promising to contribute to the community in exchange for shelter. Inside the fortress, they found both safety and new challenges. The Guardians enforced strict curfews, rationed supplies, and demanded labor in return for protection. The survivors grudgingly complied, knowing they had little choice, but trouble brewed within the compound. Some members of the group grew discontented with the Guardians' rule. Tensions mounted, and violence was on the horizon. It was clear that the sanctuary they had found was far from perfect. As time passed, the fortress faced a relentless assault from the undead. The once secure walls now had breaches, and the survivors had to band together to fend off the hordes of infected. The Guardians' power waned as the compound became more vulnerable, and it was clear that a final stand was approaching. The survivors, hardened by their journey and the challenges they had faced, now found themselves at a crossroads. They had sought refuge, but they would soon have to make a fateful decision: to fight for their place within the fortress or to embark on a new journey, seeking a sanctuary that offered true safety and hope. The end.